All right, boys, welcome back to COVIDcast episode number 4. Today, I know you see we have a special guest. Armani, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Armani Cotton. Um, yeah, I'm from New York City. I played basketball at Yale University. Been playing professionally in Europe past 3 years. Yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell right now.
All
Sir.
right.
Before we get into the episode, I have to ask. You're 36 minutes a game, 21 points a game, fourth in Norway in scoring. Has any NBA organization shown interest?
Man, the season's not even over for them. So it's actually been a weird process.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even technically off season, so no. And I honestly don't expect those numbers, even though I performed well this season, to suggest that. It's more about like in the summertime, you'll have some like closed workouts with clubs that are familiar with players, and I have a couple relationships with teams. But I was looking forward to making that pivot to the G League and kind of going through the two-way contract process. But I think things are on hold right now. But yeah. Either way, it's all good. Those who know about me or need to know about me know about me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll start off with the questions. So we are all high school athletes who are going to be high school athletes next year. We were just wondering how's the recruiting process for you going into Yale?
For sure. Okay, so we got some hoopers in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I like to hear that. Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. Well, for one, everyone's then going into their freshman year, 9th grade?
No. So we're going to sophomore.
We're going to sophomore then.
Couple going to sophomore, some are going to
into
freshman.
9th grade.
Okay, bet. Yeah, so we got some sophomores, got some freshmen, incoming freshmen. Yeah. Well, for one, I think before you even look at the like recruiting process, this is like such a funny time because, part of you can be like, all right, there's some initial skills that I know like at least get people's attention, right? Whether it be like, all right, I'm a pretty good ball handler, I'm a good shooter. And there's like an effort to like really double down on the things that you're really good at because, if you're going to get recruited, it's because of, some skill set that, a coach might be like, hey, we need this in our program. That's usually how coaches look at things. And if you're being strategic at that age already, you're probably like, all right, I'm going to try and like add this to my game, but knowing this is like my bread and butter. But what I would say, or what I would suggest, for those who are looking to, is everyone here trying to play collegiate basketball for those who care about it?
Well, I'm baseball, but.
Oh, yeah, baseball, yeah.
I'm probably baseball too. Yeah.
Probably baseball too. No, it's all of okay, cool. Like I think it's really the same. It's honestly similar in process. Just like when you're trying to become anything, one thing that I would probably do is like have a real honest conversation with yourself. Like, am I willing to fail or fuck up a little bit early so I can peak at a certain time? Because I think a lot of people double down on their greatest talents and their greatest skills, which is great, but it's a little bit unfair. Like you guys are meant to be at your highest level by 17. Like I remember I was like, getting recruited by like all these Ivy League schools and then a couple of ACC schools. And I was like, dang, I have to like be the nicest walking on campus. When in reality, at least in like the long game, it would be really nice to be like, yo, if you're at your best come 22, like then you might be able to really break your game into pieces where it's like, cool, I might dedicate a whole summer to this instead of like trying to add every single thing to your bag. So that's just one thing I would think about. You have time more than you know. So don't worry about rankings right now for sure, or how people might perceive you. Or if you have a season, the coach is like, yo, you were trash. Cool. That means you were working on something that, you probably need to advance on, and that's great. Like, cause you have time. That's your greatest talent right now. The amount of time you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The second question was, when did you like realize, dang, I could really go somewhere with basketball and like I could go professional and play college and stuff?
Yeah. That's one that I feel that. Well, I always had like the confidence that, I don't know if it was confidence, but just like the good delusion that like, yeah, like of course I'm gonna play Division I college basketball. Like that was just like that was my goal. So up to that point in life, which was probably like 12 or 11, nothing that I had set my sights on, like I had failed at, which honestly, like how much could you really accomplish up to 11 or 12? Like, you know, it's like if my goal was to, you know, have a nice outfit that day at like middle school, I was like, yeah, you know, I pulled that fit off. Like that was my goal and I achieved it. So like, I couldn't really tell what was like a really big goal compared to that. So in my mind, that was like a very natural thing. But I think in terms of the gatekeepers, you know, those who choose whether you play at that level or not, it became like a closer reality was like my sophomore summer. This summer before, my mom demanded that I do like a community service in like Fiji in Australia, which is like kind of like, yeah, like, you know, so the whole summer I didn't do any AAU, which is like, you know, you just can't do that, especially even when I was playing. And you know, it was like an effort to bolster my resume, you know, like you do like a lot of extracurriculars to try and make, you know, and my mom's vision was very much like, yeah, you're going to go to Yale or Harvard, but for completely different reasons. I was just like, I'm trying to hoop. I let her know that from the get-go, but she was like, nah, you know, you're going to be a lawyer or a president or something like that. And that was just not my ambitions at all. So this summer after, I paid my way into Columbia's elite camp, and no one had known about me because I just hadn't done any summer ball. And I kind of went off in like a couple games, and all of a sudden they just like, it was just like, you know, they were like, can you call your mother in so we can have a conversation? And then it just kind of came from there. But you definitely got to feel like you're that way before a coach lets you know, like, oh yeah, you're good.
Definitely. What are your thoughts on high school prospects picking the G League over college basketball?
Oh, I love it. I love it. One, I think it has to do like more options, the better. You know, obviously like college sports is like overwhelmingly and unapologetically like primarily like young black athletes who are like excelling at that level, and the NCAA is just an absolute like farce. So it's really odd that there would only be like one way to get to whatever it is you're trying to get at, right? Like student athleticism is meant to be like sports and academia. So if those are like dual pathways that you're trying to combine in one, you know, it's a little far-fetched to think that an athlete might not be leaning one way more than the other. No one's necessarily 50-50 in life. So the idea that like you're basically dangling the opportunity for great athletic success with like this idea of like, yeah, well, it comes with academics seems silly. Like you would never like tell a celloist or like, you know, like a all world like grandmaster chess player at 12 years old, like, hey, real quick, bro, like I'm gonna need you to go like 4 years at like DePaul before you can like pursue this as like an international profession. You feel me? Like it's like why? It's like because we're trying to see you on like, you know, couple matches a week. You know what I mean? It's just like you would never do that. So I like that along with professional sports, like you're seeing more athletes have more power and agency. You're going to now see that at the younger levels in terms of creating like stuff that fits for you, because beyond the athlete identity, we're all individuals. You know, we have different ambitions. Like all of you guys, you might all play the same sport, but I'm sure you all have like some interests you haven't even shared with the boys yet. Like, yeah, I like Dragon Ball Z. I can't tell them yet, but you know, this is right. You know what I mean? Some Naruto dropped, and I'm sure some of y'all went crazy. So it's like all those things are kind of coming out now. Everybody can do as they please.
Next question was like when you were younger and up till now, who do you model your game after?
I don't even know if it's like necessarily modeling, but I was just like obsessed with Jordan was my introduction to like, oh, I want to play this like forever, as like that's what I want to play. I saw like Jordan to the Max, which I encouraged because Last Dance was cool, but Jordan to the Max went crazy. It was like IMAX version theater of like two of his last seasons. But like, yeah, it was like early Jordan introduction to like, damn, like basketball is like beautiful game, like, you know, beyond just playing it and watching it. But then after that, it became Kobe. Kobe is just like, that's like my like dad. Everything that he was doing, I was like, yeah, like I'd see a commercial and assume that was the actual workout, and I just copy it, you know, outside. So like anything that he was doing, from the footwork, even his shot mechanics, I've switched the shot now, but like yeah, it was 100% him.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what are the expectations versus reality of pro basketball?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, once again, it's like based on the individual. My expectations were like, I had some glimpses into it because, once you're at the collegiate level, you're one step closer to the professional level, just like how when you're at the high school level, you kind of get a glimpse of what college life might look like, just because now you start being around that like tier of players. But for me, my assumption that perhaps was not consistent with like the reality was like, I thought I was going to be much more comfortable with the like professional part of it. Cause like in college, it's still like, school. So like you guys all have teachers, and whether you want to admit it or not, like no one's necessarily targeting to like make you fail. Like there's so many different ways to find a way to like, recoup some points off of a grade, right? Like extra credit, like, or like going to talk to the teacher and be like, hey, like, listen, transparently, I'm struggling here. Like, how can I like, improve in my process, right? Once you get to the professional level, it's about production. Like you have to produce, there's no hand holding. Like perhaps for the time of your contract, like there's an attempt to get the most out of you. But at the moment that the juice isn't worth the squeeze being like, them investing like X amount of hours, like trying to get you up to date on the game film, they'll just find another guy. It's the business of it. So I knew that, and I was kind of excited for that, because something I was really difficult for me in school was like the feeling that my coaches were like, yeah, we want to see you shine, Armani, while knowing on the flip side, like if we lose, obviously I don't get fired. I'm a student athlete, but they do. So I felt like it was like kind of like tongue in cheek, if you get what I mean by that.
Yeah.
It was just like kind of mixed signals. Whereas professional, like, yo, I'm here to do a job. You're paying me like $8K a month. Like I imagine like that's quite a bit of change, like 12 months, you know what I mean? Of that with room and board, my own car. Like I'm seeing all the benefits that come with it versus college, where it's like, oh, the education, but like you actually have money in your pocket. So now there's like a value to your production. So it's just like, oh, cool, it's all out here. But with that, I was a little bit like still caught off guard when, if I had a bad game, I'd see in the papers the next day, or I'm like driving home in the radio. Like I'll never forget when I was in Brussels, my first year in Belgium. Like I didn't understand much, but in French, I just heard them be like, Armani Catin, like kind of just like in a negative like tone. And I was like, oh shit, like, like, yo, they're really talking bad about me. Like in college, they don't do that. They're like, a rough game. Like they were just like, yo, man might get fired next week. I was just like, okay, like, kind of have to switch it up. So like, I have a lot of respect for the varying levels that people are playing at. But like obviously at the professional, like NBA to Europe, it's a lot.
How long did it take you to get used to like the pro lifestyle, or like the pro, like the different setting that you were in?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been privileged enough to like be out of the country before, so that wasn't like an initial shock. Like I traveled to Europe when I was younger with like my mom, so I really appreciate her for that. So like that wasn't a crazy adjustment. I guess more to what I was speaking to before, like that was an adjustment, but that's more like comfort with
Yeah.
the success and the failures of doing anything. And I think if I was even back home in the NBA, that would have been an adjustment.
All right. So your mom went out with you, like?
Oh no, she didn't go out with me. I'm just saying like when I was younger.
Oh yeah.
Like 13 to like 15, like certain summers, like my parents like got divorced, so I remember our divorce trip was fire. Like we went to Italy and in Greece and stuff. I was like, yo, damn, like all right, this is kind of cold. But yeah, like that was like an early like experience of seeing what life was like out in Europe. And we went to the Olympics actually in Athens.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got to see US play, and then I went again in 2008 for the Beijing Olympics. So like I've been very privileged to like kind of travel around. So I know what culture shock is.
All right.
So I was comfortable with that. Yeah.
That's cool. What would you say is like your biggest role model growing up? like outside of, because you already talked about like who you modeled your game out off of, but like
Mhm.
kind of outside of basketball.
Just like my mom and my grandma for sure. Like in terms of role models, I think it's typical. You know, the people who are around you, like outside of like Kobe, you know, who laid a blueprint from afar. Yeah, them. You know, when you see like perseverance and like, you know, it's what everyone likes. They like to see like the underdog come out on top, and for sure they did that.
Can you just explain what DOSA is to the viewers?
For sure, for sure. So DOSA, DOSA is DOSA first stands for Division I Student Athletes. So it's a skill development company, but also program that's exclusively instructed by current and professional Division I student athletes from the Ivy League to the Pac-12. So it's actually something that I started when I was not too much older than you guys. Like what the oldest guy here is like 14, 15?
15, yeah.
15, right? Yeah, so I actually founded it when I was about to turn 18. And basically the idea behind it was like, I'm sure everyone here has attended their fair share of like sports camps. If it's not baseball, then basketball. And, you know, you have these like coaches that are probably relatively decorated, you know, they're like, hey, you know, this guy played like X amount of years at this level, and, you know, he coached for X plus years for this team, and, you know, just like trying to create some relation to what it is that you've seen. So it's like, okay, cool, he's valid, you know? And I'd gone through like the same process of like, you know, generic camps to all of a sudden invitationals. Like I'm at the Reebok camp and I'm like, oh snap, like that was, you know, John Wall's team, like, you know what I mean? All those things. And then it felt very weird that while I saw those faces, right, that I could very much be like, oh, bet, like, he's where I'm trying to be at. They weren't really instructing me. It was still like, you know, the 30-year-old plus coach, you know, who's like decorates like, yo, back in my day, I used to hit him with the, and I'm like, cool, but you're not doing that to me now. So I just like, it just didn't make much sense to me how they were kind of like, you know, the ones who are effectively molding my game, you know, especially when I was trying to make a very immediate jump, which would be from high school to college within a matter of like 1 to 2 years. So I say that to just provide some context behind, like, I knew that it didn't make any sense that as someone who had now at least successfully navigated the student athlete journey, right? Like I had already committed to Yale, and it was like, you know, I was kind of getting the pat on the back, like, bro, you did it. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. You're about to like, who do you want and go to Yale? It's like, yo, yeah, that's a fact. Like everything that I was trying to be, I became, and I didn't have like that access to like someone who was doing it, you know? And that's kind of something that's typical for most student athletes. We have to become it before we actually like get to meet it or experience it. So the premise behind our program being exclusively instructed by those who are playing the game is along the lines of like, you know, you want access to, you know, your dream. So it's like really 0 degrees of separation between, you know, your ambitions and our reality. And I petitioned to the NCAA and the Ivy League Conference prior to stepping foot on campus because, as you guys would probably know, like NCAA athletes can't like profit off of their likeness. Mm-hmm. But I technically wasn't an NCAA athlete yet because I was an incoming freshman. So I kind of found a loophole in the system. And I was like, listen, I'm going to start this as a sole proprietorship. And they're like, okay, crap, we technically can't stop you from doing that because you're not on campus as a freshman yet. But as soon as you do step on campus, you're going to have to transfer the, you know, ownership over to someone else. And so I had to transfer it over to my mom. So for 4 years, I was effectively like, you know, puppeteering, you know, behind the scenes, so to speak, just like not in any way a direct profiter. And I couldn't also advertise the program. But the funny thing about it was like, anytime I went off in a game, like I'll never forget my sophomore year, I had like 20 against Florida. You know, they were like, and I remember my mom played me the tapes like, yo, they were talking about DOSA the whole time. I'm like, oh, this could work. Like, you know what I mean? Because like I couldn't publicly speak to it. But obviously, you know, when someone's doing well, they're like, and, you know, the student isn't just an athlete. Like, he's also doing, you know, right? You know, the way that they try and create this, you know, mirage of like student athleticism. But that's really what it was. And I think that we need to divest the power from those who are to keep it a buck, bro, just like exploiting the game because they're removed from it. And it's not like, you know, it's not any disrespect to them, but like there's certain nuances to the game. Like you guys play baseball right now that like, even if I read a textbook, watch like all the MLB games and collegiate games right now, there's certain like, you know, nuances to it and like cultural differences where I'm not going to pick it up because I'm not playing on a day-to-day. Like, you know what I mean? With the way you guys are wearing your hat, like there's some stuff with my socks. Like that's why it feels phony when you see like an older guy trying to like pull it off. Cause it's like, yo, this isn't your day-to-day. You know what I mean? So that's from like a cultural standpoint, but more specifically from a skill development, what DOSA is able to do is actually bridge the gap between, you know, the information gap really, right? When you go from high school to college, I can speak to basketball. There's so many different, you know, ball screen coverages, defensive coverages, the vocabulary behind it, the decision-making that's asked to be made in a split second. And then beyond the skill standpoint, how to actually play skill in the right context. It's just like, there's so many things. That's why you see, you know, really dope high school athletes beyond the ones who should have been pro immediately sometimes struggle. And it's like, dang, bro, he was so nice in high school. Like, why isn't he like cooking? And it's just because there's that gap. And I think it's on us, those who are currently doing it, to like, you know, put each other on game, because then the game really starts getting amplified. And then you see LeBron type decision-making with, you know, a young, like John Morant. Like, I mean, he's already doing spectacular things, but imagine if he had the acumen, like the high basketball IQ of LeBron, like that would get really scary. Like Eric Bledsoe is far more athletic and honestly physically talented than Chris Paul, but he can't put up Chris Paul assist numbers because it's like there's that gap, you know? And I think it's on us to be able to fill that in. So that's my long-winded answer around what DOSA, the program, effectively does. It's all current D1 athletes, like, and we have a lot on our website, which I'm sure y'all guys will put up and show.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure.
I really like
We checked out. Oh, you go.
I really like the ad that you had on your Instagram.
Which
Like,
one?
I don't know. It was like where you were like talking in the beginning, and I thought it was hilarious because you were like, because like you said that one line that was like, it was like really funny, and it kind of shows your personality too. It was like I'm trying to think.
Was it like when I was talking over the film?
Yeah.
Oh, like or the ad where I'm just like messing up.
Yeah, the one you're messing up.
My name's Armani Cotton. I'm the founder of DOSA Sports. I'm sorry, I should say DOSA Basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, bro, because it's like it's weird having, and maybe we'll get a chance to speak to the app, which is really dope. And you know, for those of you guys who are actually looking to make that jump in anything, like even if it's like, yo, I just want to be a really solid high school ball player, like the ability to have access to someone like me or any other D1 athlete from a school that maybe you're like, yo, it would be kind of tough if I was playing at Princeton. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, oh shoot, it would be kind of ill if I was at UConn. You know what I mean? Just the ability to have that type of access beyond just the, let me pray to God DM with like the tech to actually, you know, fill in the gap. So you're not out here just hitting sham gods and drop crossovers with no understanding of how it's going to help you in a game or not. You know, that was me, man. Like, I'm telling you, my bag is deep, but I couldn't use any of it for, you know, so many years. So, yeah, it's just fun because it's us. It's all current athletes. So when you see those ads, it's not phony. It's just athletes being athletes, you know, getting better together.
Yeah. I guess a question for viewers too, like, is DOSA, is it just for basketball players, or is it available for all sports?
There's a very good question. So we are preparing to pivot. So DOSA Sports LLC is actually the name of the company. Basketball is our flagship program, but my vision naturally was to always have this for every collegiate sport. So, you know, that's actually going to, hopefully after this pandemic period kind of goes over, it's something that we're going to do. And baseball is for sure one of them. Tennis has been an early one. We've already done it in track, but it's about having access to the current athletes who are doing it. And we have a curriculum that's allowed us to like provide the same development that you might have in a personal trainer or a coach at a camp. But now you have like the complementary access of like, bro, if you're trying to be somewhere, get access to the ones who are doing it. Like, let's not guess, You know, it seems
Right.
silly that we're going to all these camps off of the strength of, hey, I heard so-and-so went to this camp, so hopefully I get what they got, right?
Yeah.
You know, like they can tell you right now, like, bro, if I only knew what I know now, right? Like, you know, when you go on Spark Notes, is that still a thing? I don't know if that's
Oh,
still
yeah.
a thing. And
Oh,
like,
Yeah,
that's a big thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's get to the point, right? Like, could I be more purposeful with my time? You know, it's
Yeah.
like that. We have so many options. Like, why not be tactical about it? We all have goals. Like, there's no need to like beat around the bush. Let's figure out how it gets done. And that's, you know, that's on the athletes who do it.
It's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabe, you want to go?
No, you got it. You got it.
All right. So you're a young basketball player, you know, barely 18. What made you want to like start DOSA?
When I was 8, what made me want to start JOSA at 18?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, beyond the ambition to like, you know, in my mind, like rectify the skill development world, which seemed to be like a bunch of older people who don't hoop, you know, telling me what to do, which I could understand. But feeling like, yo, I think that there's a way to put power in those who are currently doing it. On a very like fundamental level, I remember my mom being like, so what are you going to do for like some money while you're at school? I was like, no, I'll just ask you when I need something. Like, and she was like, that's not going to work. So, you know, it was really cool for that to be like my initial response, because I mean, like, listen, if you guys are like fortunate enough, because like it's a combination of like obviously a stupid amount of hard work and then good fortune, right? Like no injuries, you know, right timing, the coach sees you at the right time, you're performing well at the right time. Like I've gone 0 for 8 before, but I went 8 for 8 in front of like, you know, Virginia Tech, and that's what allowed for me to get an offer. Like, you know what I mean? I could have gone over 8. It's just, that's just life, you know? So beyond all those things, I just felt like if there's an opportunity to take something like finances for sure off of an athlete's table, and to actually be compensated thoughtfully for their like unique talents and skill development, then it should be done. And that's why like that's why I created the programming at that young age, because I saw my peers and I was like, why are you working at the library? Like you're a 2-time All-American, bro. This is weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then if you get hurt this season, then what? You're gonna like have to do like a regular job. Like it is, you know what I mean? There's kids making, you know, X amounts off of reviewing toys on YouTube right now. This is silly. Why is the NCAA getting billions off of us come tournament time? So
Right.
even the same way you guys are doing this, like who knows where this goes? This becomes big. Imagine someone like, cool, but first you need to get a certificate of podcasting before you can legally podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it seems like you're definitely doing something you love, like tied in with like business and stuff you're passionate about, which is really cool.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
So the next question, what's your favorite Kobe moment of his career, or like one that stuck with you?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So I've only seen Kobe once, but my rookie season, after it was over, I came back in it was 2016, and came back to New York City, and my mom was like, "Hey, like, you know, Kobe's last game is tomorrow. Are you trying to go?" And I was like, "It's gonna be crazy," you know what I mean? Like, I can't. I mean, everyone's trying to go see him right now. How am I gonna get a ticket? And she was like, "No, you should at least look into it." And there was one ticket left. This is about 24 hours before tip off. It was, I'm not even gonna drop the price of it, but it was three seats behind court, behind, you know, floor seats. And my mom was just like, "Yo, are you gonna regret this? Are you gonna be like in a cardboard box? Like, why did I invest in that? Like, I should have like, you know, put it in the stock or something." She was like, I was just like, "You're absolutely right." So I got a one-way ticket. I bought the ticket. I got a one-way ticket to LA. On the way there, catching a red eye that night, because I'm coming from New York City, I hit up like everyone who I knew. I was like, "Yo, does anyone still live in LA or anybody who I know?" And I just dropped my duffel bag off at my boy's place, who was going to Occidental, and headed over. And I was, to the right of me was Snoop, I was sitting 2 rows behind Jay-Z, like Kendrick was there, and I was just like, cool, like this is wild. But it all went black as soon as I saw, like, my idol. So naturally, I saw him drop 60 in his last game, which was still by far the craziest experience of my life. Like, I had to sit, like, hand on head, like, how did I just witness this man hit a game winner? You know what I mean? At like damn near 40. So yeah, that was like I've experienced a lot of Kobe moments, but to see that up in person was absolutely absurd. And then I actually left in the middle of this season to go to his memorial. So like, not that that was like a favorite thing, but it's like a real like alpha omega, I've only been around him, so to speak, 2 times. Yeah. I've only been to LA 2 times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like that's my guy. It was been a tough year, but yeah.
Again, what's been the favorite moment of your career so far playing overseas?
Favorite moment of career playing overseas. It would definitely be like a first professional game. In Belgium, I was playing for Stella Artois, which is like Stella is like a pretty popular beer, at least in the States. Obviously Belgium is like known for it. So like I never drank until I didn't have my first drink until I was like until I turned 21, and it was forced on me by my mom, because I was an absolute square, like super like, like, yo, bro, I'm trying to go to the league, like don't talk to me about parties, nothing like that. So the irony of it all, that I had like an unlimited subscription to as much Stella Artois as I wanted, was just too much for most to handle. And my mom flew out for our first game, like big sponsored event, and my grandma too, and one of my boys who was living in Berlin pulled up as well. And we were playing like the defending champs of the league that was like vying for EuroLeague, which is like the highest league in Europe. It's like NBA, like an NBA GM will check NBA games, stats and stuff of players, and then they'll go to EuroLeague. So that's like the caliber of club we were playing as our first home game. And our club had never beat them, and we beat them. And I had like 15 and like 4 boards or something like that. Like my agent called me and was going crazy. He's like, yo, we killing out there, And I was just like, oh my God, my whole life's about to change. Like, yeah, that was like a crazy, crazy fun moment. Yeah. I just like remember that, like, the signing the autographs thing. It was like, it just felt very, very surreal. You have that in college, but like when it's your job, it is, there's a certain, there's like a level of ownership that comes with it like that, This is what I do now for a living. It's crazy. Yeah.
Remember the first time you signed an autograph?
No. But it's so fun. I feel like autographs, at least for like little kids, this is not to come off like real egotistical, but like autographs sometimes feel like a low form of celebrity, at least with basketball. It feels like, it's like you can have a good game and kids will ask for your autograph. I had that, like, everyone's just like, yo, just in case. Just in case this, you know what I mean? In case this dude blows up. So yeah, probably super young. Like I think I had like 41 at like an AAU game right before I went to high school, like 8th grade. Like, yeah, that was a crazy moment. And I think kids were just like, yo, what the hell? I didn't miss from 3. I blacked out. It was a fun one. Yeah, that probably might have been the first.
Damn, before you even got to high school. That's crazy.
Yeah, bro. Yo, and my mom's killed my momentum, man. That was the year right before I told you I went to Fiji in Australia.
Oh.
Yo, next summer I was like, yo, I'm on. Like, they know me out here. She's like, cool. Let's get that extracurriculars up.
Mom, I've signed an autograph before.
Yeah, I was like, yo, Mom, I just signed my first autograph. I'm 14. Like, don't worry about it. We can go to Fiji later.
The next question, how is Norway different from the U.S.?
It's a loaded question. And too many ways.
Is there like one big difference that like you've had to like change?
For my experience, from my personal anecdotal experience, while systemic racism exists everywhere, the differences are so ridiculous. It's like uncomfortably. Let me just put it like this way. Obviously, you guys know background about me. Like, hooped at Yale. I'm from New York City.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like the checklist, right? It's like, oh, you know, if you didn't meet me, you just ran into each other down the street, and like that was an introduction by someone about me. Be like, oh wow, like, you know, pretty accomplished. Like, that's cool, man. Like, respect to you, right? Versus like you just not knowing me, and then like off of like look alone, it's like, I mean, he's tall as hell, so maybe he plays basketball, but like beyond that, there's not much you can pull. Just like, you know, a 6'7" black dude walking around. I've been able to walk around this space without having to like explain who I am, right? Like, or even like kind of like open my mouth to like prove my validity, you know, or like, oh, like, okay, but like he's like kind of like a unique black dude, right? Like this idea of like being exceptional versus what might be considered the norm. Like, can't ignore what's going on with, you know, George Floyd. Like the differences between me in the States, in New York particular, or anywhere, just being like, wow, like, but he's like, wow, you know, this is like really impressive. But between the moment of not knowing and then knowing, it's just like a crazy jump when it's brought up that like, oh yeah, this dude plays professional basketball. Like, he went to Yale. They're like, so like, how do you feel about the weather here? Like, you feel like it's just like a complete gloss over, and I love it. Like, it's completely off the merit of my character in my experience here. Now, I know that's different for other immigrants, but as an African American immigrant, like that beyond any quality of life, like with basketball, obviously, like I have an apartment here that's paid for. Like, there's certain luxuries that come with playing the game and navigating spaces, but like Norway, because it's such a small population for such a great amount of land, and then it's like hella advanced because like they're a very oil rich country. They like struck oil like around after like getting independence from Denmark and Sweden, so it was kind of like, you know, good ass karma. Now like there's a bunch of Teslas driving around. If you ever come out to Oslo, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, seems like there's zero poverty, but that for sure has been like the craziest difference. Like, just how I could have my hair half cornrowed and half in an afro, and like having like coffee with my girlfriend's father is like a neuroscientist, and I took neuropsychology as well. And like, there's no stairs, like for me, and that feels like super crazy. You know what I mean? Like that just would not happen.
Yeah. How's your quarantine been? You know?
How's my quarantine been, bro?
How's it been?
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
How's it been in Norway? It's like I'm feeling real survivor's remorse because obviously, like, my city in particular has been hit hard by the pandemic, and everywhere, you know, dealing with everything. That every bad thing about America is coming to life, because that's what happens when, you know, when there's not a lot of resources to go around to begin with, and then like there's no resources for like the lowest resource people. All the things that you were trying to hide with like wealth, you know, and like flashy cars and like good movies. Like, there's no form of distractions. Like, you got to address your problems. There's no new movie that's going to, like, Will Smith can't save us. Like, he's not going to, like, come out with Men in Black 5 and then be like, oh, that's fire. Like, I'm going to take my kids tomorrow. Like, you know, like, let's address what the hell is going on. So it's been really, it's like that every year, though. I was here during the inauguration of, not in Norway, but I was in Europe during, like, the presidency transition. Like, pretty much, like, most bad moments, it was just like, dag, like, all right, I'm over here watching from afar, and all I can do is like type and maybe send money. But beyond that, I'm like immune from what you guys have to go through. Even like, there's no, it's not the virus doesn't exist here, but we've already gone to phase 4. Businesses have reopened up to 50 plus. Like, normalcy has been regained here, you know. So that's hard. That's hard for me because I know America, you guys are like kind of going through it all.
Yeah.
We're opening back up too, though.
We're getting into the yellow zone, but it's still like.
Where are you guys at? Pennsylvania?
Philly.
In Philly?
Yeah.
I don't know, what does the yellow mean for you guys?
It's like you can have groups of 6 people. Wait. Groups of 25 people max, but you have to be socially distancing.
Yeah.
Businesses can reopen, but you have to wear masks. And then a couple other things I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
But like with all the businesses got like rioted and looted last night.
Yeah. Oh, in Philly? In Philly, yeah. You guys are.
8 p.m. curfew.
They broke into the new Foot Locker and like
Oh,
smashed a
facts.
ton of windows.
Yeah, they got into the Apple store too. Yeah.
There was
Yeah,
this really
something
crazy
happened.
picture of the Apple store that like I've been to before, and then seeing a police car just burning in front of it.
Right.
Like it was a crazy picture.
Gabe, they broke into Mr. Z's his running store.
Really?
Yeah, if you
Yeah, it's been crazy. The last 24 hours have been like
Yeah.
we all live. We're in like Philly, but we're not.
We're on
We're like 20 minutes outside of the city, except Fish.
Yeah.
Fish is in the mix.
Yeah, he's in the heart of it all.
Fish, get out there, man. Don't be scared.
I'm not there right now, but
he said, he was like, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
That's what Fish was doing. He was late because he was getting his backpack prepared. He's going to get the job done after this.
planning his escape route.
Good for you, bro. Nah, it's serious, and you guys are in like a one of the major cities in America. But it's just, I don't care about stores, to be honest, man. Someone died, so it's just like, it's gonna be really interesting. I'm excited for you guys because, thank God for technology. Like, think about this. I'm in Oslo right now. In Norway, in Scandinavia, we're having a conversation. You guys are all in Philly. You know what I mean? Like that type, like it creates some form of humanity just because, like, how could we ever imagine if I was actually born here? You'd still have the option to talk, and then soon enough, Google Translate's going to be audio. You could like have the best friend in like Bangladesh, and it's just like, yeah, that's my dog. Like we would have never known each other had it not been for this Google Translate, but we have the same humor. We like the same movies, like, so, there's definitely hope beyond that, but this is like a necessary response to something that's been going on. So yeah, but stay safe out there. Yeah, you guys are too young necessarily to be too active.
Yeah.
So are there is there a big language barrier at mainly practices for basketball?
The Norwegians will speak to each other in Norwegian, but like I also had a very unique team this year, very, very unique. But yeah, everyone spoke enough English to get by, for tactical purposes. Like we'll speak English, but come Norwegian, like if they were like really mad or they had to curse someone out, best believe they were cursing in Norwegian. So like yeah, it was like funny to like it's funny to like see them go in and out of it, which I get. So
did you pick up any of the language? Have you picked up?
Yeah, I've been working on it. I've been working on it some. I definitely know how to curse enough. Yeah, like fy fan, like that's for sure. After you clank one off the back rim, like you might hear a couple of those. Yeah,
a couple fy fans.
Huh?
I said a couple fy fans.
Yeah, a couple fy fans, man. Get you through the day.
Getting thrown around.
Also, like another question about the language: has there ever been a time where, like, if there was a misunderstanding because of the languages, like, was there a mess up or just like something bad happened because there was a misunderstanding because of that?
Like on the court, or
on the court.
On the court, yeah, because like unfortunately they have to adjust to me. Like there's no attempt really for me to speak, communicate in Norwegian. So if they're trying to tell me something in English and it's just like not really proper English, like if they mix up left and right, like that's an issue, obviously. Like, I'm like, yo, screen left, and they like are pushing the other one. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, but it's tough. Like in that regard, it's tough because you're trying to communicate with your teammates. It is what it is. But thankfully, there's enough of basketball that's just nonverbal and predicated on your skill and talent. But for sure, the best teams are the ones who can communicate well. So every European team goes through that, though, with their imports. My first year, we had like a kid from Australia. Not that that's not English, but, one from Serbia, Australia, and then like 3 American imports, and then one like dude from Spain. So, but it's cool. I think it's more hopeful than not, just like for life stuff, to meet new people.
Well, I gotta ask. So you said you have a girlfriend. So I'll just say I'm asking for a friend.
Still asking for a friend.
How are the women? How are the Norwegian?
How are the Norwegian women? Yeah, obviously I have a girlfriend, so yeah, she's great. She's phenomenal. She's Norwegian, but I like individually like her. So yeah, I mean, I think she would say that like, yeah, all my friends are absolutely beautiful. But I mean, to each their own. I'm experiencing more of the diversity of the city, but like I'll say this, Norwegians, the ones that I've met so far, they've been real decent. They've been good people. You could just check the IG, bro. You guys enjoy.
All right.
That's for y'all to decide.
How does the relationship work? Do you take her to America or like?
Do I take her to America? Like, do you bring her back? No.
You take her back home. I guess.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's what I did. I like, like mail order wife. That's exactly how it went down. Yeah, she's like a Norwegian citizen. Like she was born and raised in Oslo, like their capital here, like equivalent to like what New York, I guess, would be. But yeah, we've obviously when I went pro, like, and then have been playing in Europe since, it's been easier to like, be with each other. Like my first year we lived together. My second year in Germany, it was like difficult, but like back and forth, but it's not too far. And then like obviously this past year in like Oslo has been easy. We've shared the apartment together. But yeah, like beyond that, we've been fortunate because like we get to travel, and basketball is like kind of like on a teacher's schedule where it's like, yeah, all school year, and then you have the rest of the summer. Like, so
fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, just speaking to the app. So it's something we co-developed with this company called Famer. And basically now you actually have digital access to current Division I athletes and current professional athletes. And like what we were speaking about before in terms of like, how is it that you become what you guys are all aspiring to be? It's sports, unfortunately, isn't like school where it's like, all right, here's the textbook. You follow that, you're going to do well on the test, right? Like performance is very much like predicated on performance. Like no matter how hard you train, like there is a chance you might, go 0 for 3 in, at batting, as well as like in basketball, like, you might mess up and get a couple turnovers, but access to the process by virtue of like another athlete really, really smoothens the process. Because something we didn't get to talk about, but like I know because you guys are all of that age and I remember it and it still exists today, like doubt when you're playing, like it goes up and down. Like a bad moment on the field or on the court, like really feels like, damn, bro, this sucks. Like I'm trying to like put my head under the shirt. Like I'm not trying to be seen right now. And it's not foreign to any athlete, like regardless of the level. But for me, in using the app, like right now there's like 10 athletes that I specifically work with, and they all have ambitions to playing like at the Division I level, probably more specifically Ivy League, just because like of the, the balance of like sports and academics. Like not gonna lie, it's pretty fire to come from those schools because no one questions how smart you are, even if you're not. But it's like, yeah, it's a smooth business card. But like truthfully, it's about having trust in your individual process while having access to someone who's currently going through it. Because self-awareness is really going to be your greatest skill set. Like confidence, like unwavering confidence, which comes from self-awareness, knowing that like regardless of how I performed before or how I might perform after, it's like, yo, do I think I'm nice? Like do I truly believe in myself? And the thing that's been the most fun beyond the tech, which like allows me to like, for basketball players, I actually get to take the context of a game situation, upload it and assign it to you, and then actually upload the drill that's specific to it. So like if you're working on a ball screen, right? Like it's one thing for me to be like, use the screen and then take one dribble, take a step back and take a jump shot. Like that's really like arbitrary. Like, all right, like anyone could ask me to do that specific drill, 3 sets of 10. But the difference is like we're trying to put you in the game situation that is demanded for at the collegiate level, because like there's really about 5 consistent scenarios that you work with, and we have guys, you know, that you see on IG doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And obviously hits a little bit more when that's like a sophomore at Dartmouth who's like telling you that it's like, yo, bro, this is what I have to do. Like if you're trying to get to this level, this is like actually what's being demanded of me. So that coupled with like the emotional mental aspect, like it's been the most fun. Like I talk probably more with athletes about like, yo, did you suck yesterday? Like, it's all right, man. Like it's a part of that process. Like failure is critical ingredient to success. So like on some parting words, like beyond the DOSA app, which, you know, you can download at dosasports.com/app, or look at us at DOSA basketball on Instagram. I would just encourage like all of you guys. I think it's cool what you're doing for sure. Cause like, I mean, I know I'm sure you got a lot of your like friends and buddies watching, but failing more often like really makes you numb to it. And I think that's probably been like the greatest skill I've picked up in my 3 years. Like when you play professional sports, especially, you have to fail in public. Like there's this like, it's just a part of it. Yeah. And the easier you're able to move to the next thing, the more success you have. It's like a direct relationship. Like the only thing that I could assure you will ensure success, however you dream it up in your head, is actually failing and like being so cool with it. Yeah. Like those dudes are scary. That's like the guys you kind of hate in like Russell Westbrook and Kobe or Jordan. It's just like, Jesus Christ, bro, you just airballed. Why are you taking the same shot? Like Steph, he had to do that for like 3 years, damn near out of the league. And then all of a sudden he starts hitting them, and now he's the greatest shooter ever. Like he thought that just because you told him, like in his 3rd year. He felt like that since he was like 13 for no reason, no good reason at least. So, yeah.
We just want to give a big thank you to Armani for coming on today. Made this episode a great one. Tune into DOSA and everything that he's doing. It's really, really cool. Thank you guys for watching again. See you next week.